Hi, this is Mary Kay, and today we're painting a painting of a river with swans on it. This is the original picture from Chris. It's a square format, but what I did was I cropped it to about this level here and blew it up, and I moved the duck that was way over here, or the swan that was way over here, I moved it over, and I'm gonna just ignore the little brown swanlings. I think that's a flipper with the foot coming up. Maybe it's the back of the tail. And the other thing I did was I cut out this head and I turned it the other way, because if the head is looking out the painting this way, our eye is naturally going to go out the painting and to the next painting next door, and we want our viewer to keep looking at our painting. So this is what I traced with a non-water soluble tracing paper, including the bicycles and the people up there. And I went around the edges of the swans. What I've done so far is use Pebeo. Pebeo drawing gum is this blue masking. In my opinion, it's the best. I won't use any other brand. I use my best brushes, but before I use it, I put my brush into dilute shampoo. And then I squeeze it out of my brush, like that. And then I dip it into the Pebeo. I'm just gonna finish this up. So I've done the first two swans, and now I'm doing this third one. In this case, I'm going over the lines, and what I'm hoping is that the Pebeo, when it's dried and we take it off, it's going to lift those lines up, so our swans will be white, not with lines around the edges. So I very carefully went over those lines. I also, right at the top of this, see these white lines on that fence, especially in between these figures. So very carefully, I'm going to put some of those in. So don't have very much Pebeo in my brush right here. So definitely between these two here is going to be a little white line. Here to here. I think that figure 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's two people with their hands over the bar, and they're behind it. And I'm going to go ahead and just put the tiniest bit of highlight right there too. So that's my sketching and my Pebeo. I like this little reflection here, so I put some little white lines of that reflection there. Now I need to rinse my brush. If I get the Pebeo and the shampoo out of it now, my brush is in perfect condition. If I feel any Pebeo in the brush, I'll just work it with my fingers or maybe some more shampoo. Right now it's perfectly clean. So I'm going to put my Pebeo away, my dilute shampoo away, and I want to talk about these two colors. I put a little bit of fresh burnt sienna. This is Winsor Newton burnt sienna, and I put a little bit of cerulean in my cerulean spot. This is Da Vinci cerulean. What I'm going to do now is just start. I'm just going to paint the sky. Start at the top and work my way down. Looks like there was a little green in my brush from whatever I painted the last time I used this brush. So I'm just going to paint the sky. There's a building there. Going to go right over those bicycles. They're black. and so are the figures. So that's the sky. That's showing. I'm just going to use cerulean blue. I just squeezed it out, so there's quite a bit there, quite a bit of pigment that's easy to get in there. So I'm going to touch my paper towel and just put this right over the bicycles and these figures to that building. The next thing I'm going to do is take some more of that cerulean with this brush. I'm going to add a little bit of French ultramarine to it, maybe even just a touch indigo. And now I have I can make very fine lines with this. Again, I'm going to put these black figures over this building. So I'm just trying to put the lines up of this building. I am not trying to make this perfect. I'm just trying to suggest that there's a building back there. I kind of don't have all day to paint this painting, especially in a class that's only an hour and a half. We got to move along. So see how I'm just making these vertical lines with that here. And over here, so then there's some lines that are going, ooh, made a little bend, I don't care, I'm just going with this. And just suggesting a building back there behind these people. Some between the legs, here, there's a bike. That's how simple I'm keeping this building. Over here, kind of the same. I think this might even get matted out, so I don't want to spend too much time on this little thing over here. Go with just the tiniest bit of indigo to darken some of this. Okay, I'm just going to keep going down now. Right here, this is the bottom, the undercarriage of this bridge. So I'm going to add more indigo to this. Touch my paper towel and just bravely paint this part of the bridge here. I drew this out a month ago, then I took a month off, and here I am the day before class, trying to paint it. We'll see how it goes. There's another bridge right through here, so just down the river, there's another bridge. It's smaller now because it's further back. And I'm not spending a lot of time doing this all perfectly. This is just quickly filling it in. And then we have sort of a little bit of a mess here and a little bit of light blue here and the light blue building here and here. So I'm going to rinse out my brush and add more cerulean over here, maybe a little bit of sepia, and just get sort of a mix. And again, I'm not painting every little detail. More than anything, I'm just painting a color, a value here. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna into this. It might turn it green a little bit. Just trying to change the hue or the color. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that just the way it is. There's a kind of a blue, really blue building back there. I'm gonna try to get that in. It's right here. I'm gonna go just right through the this has got some brown. I'm just going to paint that blue too. Okay, there's that top part done, except for the figures. And now I'm going to come to the water. This I'm going to paint dry. And I'm going to put and make some more of my cerulean here. I'm going to start on this because it looks to me like there's a vent pushing the water out across. It's rough, white, and blue right in here. So I want to making all horizontal brush marks because the water, all water lies flat. So it's kind of a bright cerulean blue, but there's white chunks in it. And now I'm going to add a little water, lighten it up, and smooth it out. So I just painted across here, and I'm going to put some more color into that. It looks like, well, you know, the bridge and everything is really showing up now, so I'm going to put some sepia into my indigo. And I'm going to go down here and put this reflection in. I'm going to go over here and put this reflection in. Again, these are horizontal brush strokes. What's this one here? It's coming from here, so that better be darker. And then it will reflect here. It's going down right. I can paint right over these swans now. By painting these dark squiggles right over the swans, their little white bodies will show up even more. I kind of have a dark line here. I'm just gonna smooth it out a little bit. So every little brush stroke I'm making is horizontal. I'm using my flat brush with a point and just going back and forth. Now I'm going to go back to the cerulean. So I dip it into the fresh paint. I work it. If it's, that's a nice consistency, so I don't really need to add more water. Here I'm going to just start working these. I'm making this a little rougher and bluer. I'm leaving the whites though. Really want to have whites in this area. Okay, so I'm dipping my brush in the water, and then I go back to my paint, and that's how I know, that's how I make this puddle. Like just a dip of water, a touch of paint. That's freshly squeezed out paint, so it's much easier to pick it up. Okay, so it's going right over these swans, the beauty of Pebeo. I don't know if the camera is picking up how beautiful this brand of cerulean is, but it's the only brand that uses this pigment, this particular blue. It's a bit of an old-fashioned blue. It's probably a little more expensive. So again, so I dipped my water in my brush in the water, and then I came to the paint, and then I make the little puddle, and it's just almost the perfect amount of water and pigment. Now I'm really trying to make these squiggles larger. If you see, I don't know if you can see those little splashes. I'm just using a piece of paper that got a few marks on it. I'm not going to worry about those. I don't waste it just because there's a couple marks on it. And the bottom here, I want to, again, I'm just using pure cerulean with water, making these marks down here, really kind of filling in the corner of this paper. I am going to dip my brush into the water and clean it out, and now I'm getting some sepia and indigo. So making this a very, very dark color here. Touch my paper towel. I have my brush so that it's making a fine point. And I'm just gonna put some like shadows, wiggles, reflections. I'm even gonna touch the paper so those aren't as bright. Down here too. Those go right out the paper. Here, the building. And these reflections, these dark parts of the reflection here are going really all the way out the page. Are there any more? All the way across in here, I see more. So I'm just going to put a few more. There's not much paint in my brush, so. I like going across their heads to really make it stand out later. And I kind of have to look at it and go, does that look like water, or does it just look like kind of, is there too much white in that? And I'm kind of thinking maybe there is a little bit too much white in that. So what I'm going to do is maybe just come over some of these white lines with a little bit more cerulean, and what it's going to do is it's going to look like highlights but not be just these white lines. So I'm just painting pale cerulean over this. And on the sides here, I don't want my eye going out the edges at all. So I don't want any white showing on the sides of my paper. Same thing over here. Actually, I do think that's better. I do like the extra whites up here though, because that's kind of that rough water. And I'm gonna add even a few more bright spots of the cerulean there. It's hard to tell the difference between the bridge and the water now, the colors that I've used. So I'm going to add a little more sepia to this, so that I can tell what the bridge is apart from the water. I'm going to stop at that part. What I'm going to do now is go in with my, rinse out my big brush, my 3/4 inch flat, and I'm going to go to this is a number 1, and I'm going to use this really dark sepia and indigo mix. I'm letting this blue part dry now. It has to be dry when I pull up the Pebeo and leave the white swans. So what I'm going to do now is go in and put these figures in, and they're just silhouettes. So I'm just going to fill these figures in with this dark paint. This guy has like, I just put a little like little pointy cap on him. So I'm just looking at the picture and then trying to see like how the legs bend and come together so that I have a realistic looking figure. I think this is even darker here, where that's he's standing on this, so this has to be a little darker. So I'm just adding another layer of paint to this part of the bridge. Okay, now I'm going to go back in with those dark colors. This figure's a little taller. Looks like there's a hat brim, a hat with a brim. Bent elbow. Like Dick Tracy. Over here, there's a little bit of blue showing here in his, where his arm is away from his body. If I can capture that, good. If not, well, Nothing's perfect. This figure's a little thicker. Maybe bag your clothes, maybe you're a bigger person. Then there's one here. This one has like a glint on the top of the hat. If I can leave that. And then here the arms are coming across. So he's standing behind, at least his arms are over that top of the guardrail. Okay, now one more, same thing. There's, I don't know if I can leave that glint. Maybe I'll add white paint if I need it. And I do want to paint over the bicycles. I'm just going to just go over the tracing I did. They have these little seats. I have a little handlebars. So now I might not do this exactly right. My hand might shake a little bit. And that's just part of being human and knowing that a human painted this and it wasn't, I mean, you did use tools, but ultimately there's a human painting this. It's not perfect. And it's watercolor, so you don't get like a lot of chances at it. I don't really see any spokes. The spokes are way too thin to show up. So, and then I do see all of these, the rail here. I'm not even sure it's worth painting, but I guess we have to. So see how crooked I was? I'm not going to worry about it. Oy, that was even crookeder. Okay. This is more like a, you can see the rail on the other side of the, I guess if you wanted to, you could like put a straight edge down and get those lines in better. But there we have that. That's what I'm going to go with. Actually, kind of don't mind that too much. I like how it turned out. There's a little bit of something here. I need to just put like a little bit more dark or something in here, just so that doesn't, okay, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to stop. Okay, I need to pull up this Pebeo. The paper has to be dry. I'm walking over here to get my pickup, which I don't know. I have it where it's supposed to be. This is just an eraser. I think it will work. If the paper's wet, when you wipe this off and you touch the wet paper and then you come back to your white paper that's been preserved, you'll get the paint on the white. And I've done that almost every painting I've ever painted because I can never wait till it's really dry. I get too impatient. But today those worked well. We'll see if this one does too. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to, I think what I'm going to do first is paint the shadows on the swans. I don't want to use that tiny little brush. It'll take me forever. And so these white swans are white, blue, and brown. So that's how we're going to paint a white swan, is with white, blue, and brown. So in here, the shadow is this blue. A few years ago, I was painting white labs at the beach, and it was the exact same thing. It was brown, blue, brown and blue to paint a white lab. This one's almost. So I'm going in where I see the blue on these swans. And this is shadow. Seems crazy that the white swans are blue and brown, but once you'll see it here. Okay, now I'm going to go to the quote brown. So it's going to be, I use a little bit of that sepia and the cerulean blue. That's very blue, but I want it more brown, so I add more sepia. Ooh, this is going to be pretty close. So remember, I have changed this swan the other way. So if I put that line, that's my shadow. And now I rinse out my brush. Now I'm going to paint with just water next to that shadow, and what it's going to do is make the neck look round, so the only part I am leaving white is the very tip of the head, and then I'll paint in the orange beak. So this bottom of the tail here is mostly, oh, it's more brown actually. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna into it. Brown it up instead of so gray. And that's the color that I need in this reflection here too. The very tip is staying white. And then this part in here is white, but there's some shadowy gray fluffy feathers, so it's very pale paint. So I don't have much paint. I touch my paper towel and I fluff, put some fluff in there, and hopefully that looks like a swan. I'm going to put a little bit darker right at the base here, and there's a little bit of fluff right next to that shadow too. So he's fluffy. Okay, now this guy. So same thing, same colors. So sepia and indigo. The top of the beak that's the darkest spot. So there's a little bit of blue there, so I've got some blue. Now I'm going to rinse out my brush and take this color and just blend that down with the water. It stops at the body. Then the body's white. It has some of this. Not quite sure what this dark tail is doing. I think what I'm going to do with that dark tail is pretend that it is the shadow of the tail, I'm going to use sepia and indigo and just make this like the tail's really in shadow. Like that. And then this part of the swan is in shadow, this part's in shadow, and then there's shadow in the water. So, okay, there's a little bit of shadow here, the fluffy part. And I'm going to call that one shadowed. Next one here, make sure you can see it, is this one. It's very blue in here, so I'm going to even go, that is a very beautiful cerulean. I'm going to go in more with this. So I'm painting this here. Whoa, can really see that it's semi-opaque just then. Great. Now the same colors. So this is indigo, sepia. I'm going to put the shadow down this side. And then rinse out my brush and blend that. What's the head doing? The head has just a little bit of white right along the top. And then the beak is orange and the eye is black. This has a little bit of shadow in the white area, that same kind of fluffy. So I'm gonna just put a little bit of shadow up there. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna go back to the big one. So the beak is orange. So I have to paint that color orange on this side of the face. So I'm going to go back to my little brush and make orange for the first time, which is yellow and permanent rose. And there, it's pretty orange. Again, maybe I will use some burnt sienna. That's maybe better. And I want a little bit of highlight right at the tip of the beak. And this guy is the same. Oh, I just made the mark right there. Ah, I do want to get that one out. It's kind of a continuation of those guys down here. Okay, here we go. Now this guy. Again, there's a highlight at the very tippy top. And this guy is this way. And while this is damp, I'm going to go into my very dark, which is the sepia and the indigo. I'm going to put a little bit of burnt sienna into it too. And I'm not paint, you can't see the eye, but you can kind of see the bulge right there. Same thing here. And the same thing over here. So just the top of this is the really dark spot. There. Oh, I just made a mark there. How do you know when your painting's done? When the next brush stroke makes it worse. It was done right before that one. So I just made a mark. I wasn't concentrating and I made a mark there. I was trying to make this eye a little bit, like that little spot bigger, but then there's kind of a line to beak, I guess. This goes here, over here. Okay, I think my painting is done. There's a lot going on. I love the swans, and I love the people looking over. I just think it's a fabulous photo, and I'm happy to paint this for Chris.